use cases of Web3 through DePIN.
This episode is brought to you by WeatherXM, the first decentralized community-powered weather network. Check your weather metrics and earn. Check out their website at weatherxm.com. Hello everyone, Daniel from DePIN Hub over here, and today we have the second episode with Manolis, CEO of WeatherXM, a company deploying weather stations all around the world with the power of DePIN. If you want to learn more about the beginning of the project, check the first episode that we recorded, I think a while ago. I think it's episode 16 or something. Because this one, we will focus in the future, the new exciting development on their side. Well, thanks so much, Manolis, for joining the podcast again. It's always a pleasure talking to you all around the world, seeing the developments of the project, where you guys are going. But for those who, this is the first episode listening about WeatherXM, let's start by you introducing yourself in the project and why at WeatherXM.
Thanks, Daniel, for having me again. So WeatherXM is a community-powered network of weather stations, physical devices, and we have our community has deployed about 10,000 of those devices all around the world. In 98 countries, we have distribution basically today. Those devices send real-time weather data to our platform, actual conditions. We use this data to improve forecasts, and we monetize on this data by selling those forecasts to enterprise customers, mostly in the Web2 space, who need accurate weather conditions at specific locations and accurate forecasts. There is a mechanism where we drive some of that revenue back into the token. So the station owners are rewarded on a daily basis for their data contribution with our token. And when we make sales, when we close deals on the company side, we pass that revenue into the token. So essentially we reward the station owners for their effort. That's on a nutshell. Like in reality, like there's the details that there's a bunch of other stuff that we do on the side or to support all these activities. So it becomes very complicated, but that's the core business.
That's the core TLDR of the project. And then you guys, I would say, is one of the OG DePIN projects as well. Been there around for a long time, since before the name of DePIN was a thing, right? And then can you talk about how did you guys start in the community focus, and then how you realize, okay, now actually we need to put our big boy hat and start focusing a lot on the enterprise, right? Shifting into working with bigger companies. Who are your customers? How do you work with a demand first approach?
I think we launched as a core team. We go back in time like more than 10 years. We started as an industrial IoT company, doing custom IoT projects around weather analytics, energy, in that space. I think we pivoted to WeatherXM in 2020 or 21. That's when we released this idea of DePINizing weather infrastructure. Essentially, like you said, the term DePIN was invented a year after we had started by Messari and some other OGs. So how did we start the community building? I think we took advantage of what was happening already in the Helium ecosystem. So a lot of Helium, our early adopters were already members of the Helium project. So they could understand this whole concept of deploying equipment in exchange for some rewards, and being part of an infrastructure that expands rapidly and in a way belongs to the community, belongs to the people, because it has the governance aspect as well through the token. And maybe the other thing that helped us quickly create a community is the fact that our project has a direct benefit to the participants. So it's not just a black box you put somewhere in your room and mines stuff for you and gives you a passive income, as others often advertise. In our case, you have to do some work. It's not so passive. Deploying the station requires some more effort than just plugging in a Raspberry Pi, but it also gives you a direct benefit back, because when you deploy one of our weather stations in your backyard, for example, or in your farm or in your area of interest, you get the improved weather forecast straight to your mobile phone, because we produce those forecasts, a custom forecast basically for every point that we have a station that is trained on the historical data of the station. So there's immediate value to anyone participating in the network, which is separate from the token rewards. And I think this is an attractive aspect in our project, and it has like amplified the growth of the community. So we've managed to reach like 5,000 people in our Discord and our social media like very quickly, like in a matter of 1 to maybe 3 months when we launched the project. And today we are very proud to quote some numbers which are small, but they're real if you compare us to other projects. So we have 6,000 individual people who have deployed those 10,000 weather stations. And the number 6,000 sounds very small for a crypto project, but is a huge one for the engagement and for the effort that it requires from people to deploy a station. So we managed basically to avoid having a couple of big deployers or scalpers, as we used to call them in the old days, capitalizing or taking over the entire network. That's not the case here. When we were selling, when we started selling our weather stations, we had a restriction that you couldn't buy more than 2 in the early days. So in our effort to decentralize the network as much as possible and engage with as many people as possible. So we have achieved that. So we have 6,000 people who deployed stations, and then we have a total community. I could claim a number of more than 50,000 people. If you have a look at our Discord or social in Twitter, or the downloads and active users we have in our Android, iOS, and Solana Seeker mobile apps, in each one of those is something in the range of 20,000. So if you put them together, it's more than 50,000 for sure. And that's the broader community that I think we have in WeatherXM. And again, if you compare that with another project that is full of bots and fake followers and so on, maybe this number looks very small, but we're proud because that number is real in our case.
I don't think the numbers that you're saying is bad, right? I think it's exactly the things that you're mentioning. It's too easy to have bigger numbers when the effort is close to zero. For example, projects that all you need to do is install a Chrome plugin. That you can get a lot of people, but the real people on that project is going to be like 5%. There's going to be a lot of people, some countries in the world is going to have bot farms, and you're going to have like hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter that it's not real. One thing that is very skeptical when I see a project that's quite early, that's following 50 people on Twitter and has, 200,000-300,000 followers, and that's not organic growth. So having 10,000 antennas, one antenna to deploy it's hours, right? Like it takes passing the cable, making sure it's in the right location, attaching the antenna to the roof, have the right poles. Each one of those it's a lot of effort. So I think having 6,000 people, 10,000 antennas, etc., is already a big effort. All this data that you guys are collecting now, how does it look, and how is the response from the customers as well that you have?
We are the hardware manufacturer, first of all. Like everything starts from the hardware side. And I think serious DePIN projects, they have to get their hands dirty with hardware in any shape or form. So we put the effort to create three different products because we want to be in a position to serve any use case to the extent possible. So we have a Wi-Fi, a Helium, LoRaWAN, and a cellular product, 3 different products. But all of them, they generate the same kind of data, which is temperature, humidity, pressure, solar radiation, wind speed direction, and precipitation. So that is a typical full-blown weather station. If you come to think about it, it's way, way more than a thermometer that in some projects or in some not crypto projects in general, and crowdsourced weather observation sites, you often see some numbers that indicate that thermometers are counted as weather stations. That's a mistake in my opinion, because a thermometer is something that you put on your window or you put in your bedroom, and it doesn't provide any value to the network. In our case, the unit it's all in one. You are forced to put it at your roof or at the farm, and we have strict mechanisms to detect that. We have secure GPS modules to ensure that every station is where it claims to be, and we're actually gonna increase the penalties in regards of that, because we a couple of months ago we introduced an internal mechanism to evaluate the photographs of the deployments of the stations, which we have all this time, but we are not utilizing in public. So we're going to soon make the rewards even more strict to separate the good stations from the bad. But going back to your question, so how does the data look like? That is the raw data, and a lot of our customers, they need exactly that, the raw data, because, for example, they're meteorological companies, so they're comfortable dealing with raw data from stations. Other customers, they want streamlined, clean data coming from stations, so we apply all our quality evaluation algorithms. We separate the bad stations, we aggregate the data, we make it consistent 5-minute intervals and so on. And most of the customers, they want the accurate forecasts. And I can very quickly show you that so you get a better idea. So we have a lot of user interfaces in the project. So we have an explorer that you can see all the live stations and the live data of any of the entire network, basically. So that's explorer.weatherxm.com. We have the mobile apps that I mentioned. We have some repos here and there where we archive data in public, and one of them is using Filecoin infrastructure, so index.weatherxm.com. We act as a weather oracle in prediction markets, but the most of the revenue comes from Web2 customers like energy companies, ports, motorways, insurance companies. Those are the customers we currently have. And all these people, they consume what we call the Pro portal, the B2B portal. So this is available at pro.weatherxm.com. Anyone can log into this for free and can create an account and have a look at what we are doing. And it starts with an explorer similar to what we have in the public already, but it gives a lot of weather insights and weather forecasts. So let's give it a go. So you're based in Lisbon, right? Okay, quite a few stations in Lisbon. I mean, I knew that because Portugal is very crypto active. So this is Cascais, right? Okay, cool. So there's a station there. It's a helium station, by the way. Early Course Link Winter, whatever that means. We have all these cool names. So we're in the B2B portal now, so we can extract historical data from this station. We can see a forecast, and we have multiple forecasts. So because we aggregate third-party forecasts in addition to the ones we produce, and we compare them, and we roughly we aggregate something like 40 different third-party models. And now the interesting thing, and quite unique in our project that doesn't exist anywhere else as a service, and usually it's something that you find in the internal meteorological departments of large corporations, is the process that we have that evaluates the third-party forecast accuracy using the station as ground truth. So you can see all this free in here, and in the particular station that we clicked, we can see that in terms of forecast accuracy for temperature, on average, for 1 up to 7 days ahead, the best forecasting model is ours, is WXM. And the average error to expect in this forecast is 1.2 Celsius decrease. And second best comes the ICON model, which is from the German Meteorological Organization, which are very good in Europe in general. Third is a different variation of our model, and then it goes on and on, we're evaluating all the models. So you can see similar stuff with other weather variables like precipitation, HIF 25. That's the European AI forecast. This seems to be the best for precipitation. Our forecast is not good for precipitation, apparently, in this location. However, we're good at humidity and wind speed and direction. Again, the German model is very good here. So these are the kind of insights that our customers basically get instantly when they see our product, when they start consuming our services. Through this process, we are in a position to prove that most of the times our model is the best. But even if it's not our model, then we know what is the model that ranks better in that particular location. So this creates a very good trust with the customer, and also helps them like do their work. Like if the customer here was an energy utility or a dynamic line rating company, which are real customers that we have today, the temperature thing and the wind is super important for them. So that's how the data look like, to answer your question.
For those who are listening, make sure to check also the video. Like Manos just showed how the platform looks. I think the amount of data that they have is insane, right? Like so many data points. How would you compare, like the hyperlocal WeatherXM data comparing to what countries have outside? They use satellites or national weather stations. Sometimes it's a very expensive, very good device, but it's just one in a big area, right? When you have multiple places, what is the main difference, you'd say?
Yeah, so that's our thesis, by the way. We think it's better, or at least that's good, to have 10 affordable weather stations deployed by a community instead of having one super expensive deployed by the government and nothing else. Because weather is very different as you move on Earth. Even if you just go a few hundred meters away, definitely when it's a few kilometers away, weather is quite different. Like maybe the temperature, the ambient air temperature is not so different, but usually wind and precipitation is quite a lot. And depending on the customer, the use case, like how the weather affects the particular operation, that could be quite important. I mean, for citizens, it could mean like, should I get an umbrella or not? So it's not such a big deal. But for companies that are weather sensitive, and by the way, most of the worldwide economy is weather sensitive, that variability of weather conditions on a micro scale is very impactful, very important to them. And it's really difficult to observe this, to analyze this, and to forecast these microclimate conditions from a government perspective or from any perspective, basically. Satellites cannot solve this problem because the resolution they have is not high enough. And at the same time, satellites cannot like exactly see the amount of precipitation, the amount of rain that has fallen at any location. They need the ground stations to calibrate themselves, because satellites are like a camera in space that is looking at Earth, and maybe it's a super camera with very high resolution, and you can see like a lot of frequencies, so you can see stuff that the human eye doesn't see. But at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of photographs. So if you don't have the ground truth, you cannot make sense of those photos. And when you have the ground truth, you essentially compare like the photos with the reality, and you kind of normalize and estimate if this amount of rain was in this pixel, then the next pixel that has slightly different color then probably is more. That's how the real analysis data works today, and that's how it is possible today to open a mobile app, ask for actual weather conditions at any point on Earth, and get an answer. So meteorological companies will give you an answer, but it's an estimate, and that estimate very often is way, way far from reality, from the truth, because the nearest weather station, it could be like hundreds of kilometers away, usually is the airport. So they are like doing the best they can to estimate the conditions there. But again, if the use case, for example, is if it's a dynamic line rating company who's trying to estimate the temperature and wind on the power line cables on the grid in order to push 30% more energy through those lines, this company needs to have very detailed knowledge on temperature and wind. Otherwise, they're risking of burying the cables, like putting the cables touching each other, or touching trees, and potentially creating a blackout for the entire country, as it happened in Portugal and Spain a couple of months ago.
That was a fun one. WeatherXM is transforming the weather and climate intelligence industry with a decentralized network of hyperlocal weather stations and community power infrastructure. With 10,000 stations deployed across 80 plus countries, WeatherXM is the world's fastest growing weather DePIN, delivering trusted ground level data where it's needed the most. Now you can be part of the next wave. Targeted Rollouts lets you fund and deploy stations in high-impact locations and earn on-chain rewards as they go live and deliver high-quality weather data. Supporters mint Beaver NFTs to help place new stations in critical areas. Deployers install the stations and keep them running for 2 years at least. Together, you help close weather data deserts and power better forecasts while earning rewards. Ready to shape the future of weather? Head to rollouts.weatherxm.com and join the mission. Support a station or deploy one, and you get a chance to earn bonus rewards for early participation. Don't wait around. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, I like to think there's some sort of analogy with the beginning of Google, right? Like Google, when they started in the early 2000s, they had the challenge of trying to build this massive search engine, but they didn't have that much money. But they were smart, so what they did was actually they have a lot of really bad, poor, cheap hardware, but have volume. So they managed to, through software, improve a lot of poor hardware and have the advantage on the software, or instead of having like a very expensive hardware that does everything when the software is pretty poor. So it's the same way, right? Like you have a lot of data points that may be much cheaper than, very 10,000. I have no idea, 50,000. I don't know how much an airport weather station costs, but if you have a lot of data, you can have much better results in a cheaper price. And then especially if you have the DePIN, where people are actually deploying that. And another thing that you said that I really like is when projects have this thing that I'm not just doing this because I like the token to come to my wallet, but actually have advantage, or like I want to use the information that's being generated. And I think the weather station is something that's really cool. And also something that you can be quite proud of if you're deploying a station in your house or in your building, and then you can see accurate information about what's happening. It's something that's, I think, a lot of value for everyone, right?
Absolutely. That's what's happening in our case. Like, we're not claiming that our weather stations are better than the WMO or NOAA ones. On average, NOAA spends $60,000 for a urban deployment and $120 for a rural. And that includes the cost of hardware, which is in the tens of thousands of dollars, plus the effort to deploy it, the connectivity, the electricity, and so on. Of course, those weather stations will survive a hurricane. Ours probably will not. It's plastic, it will break. But that's not the issue, because the cost reduction that we have in our project is 100 times the typical prices, the extremely, say, expensive prices of a NOAA station. So at 100 times cheaper, then of course there's going to be disadvantages, but still there is a huge value being produced by a weather station, a compact, cheap weather station, affordable weather station like ours. When you put it in a location that there's nothing else. Because this is like what we're trying to do here. We're trying to deploy stations in areas that there's no other information. This is what our customers are asking. We have a customer in Portugal, and if you go to our Explorer and click on Sell Bounties, you'll see a couple of locations in Portugal that are purple, red, and this is like where we are giving additional rewards for the community to go deploy stations now. Like, we need this immediately. So that customer there is a DLR company, and they are exactly the use case I was talking before. They need the exact temperature and wind on the transmission tower, and they cannot risk the getting data from estimates. And they are super happy with the kind of equipment that we are deploying. They don't need a airport grade weather station. They just need a reliable, affordable device that measures all the typical parameters and can, send this stream in real time. And that is, I think, the concept in all of the startup world, not only in the crypto, but definitely in the DePIN ecosystem. It is the use case of disruption by cost. Like somebody builds something that is 100 times cheaper, and initially it's crap, but it starts working, and then people pay attention, and then it becomes better and better and better, and then it becomes a viable alternative that is maybe it's not 100 times cheaper, maybe it's 50 times cheaper, but still it is a good alternative option to have. And it's the only option, like in our project, is the only option for the global south, because we started rolling out stations in Africa, in India, and Latin America. We were in Argentina like previous week, trying to establish the network there through collaborations with other crypto projects. We did the same thing in Kenya. That was super successful a couple of months ago. We have 120 stations in Kenya right now. Similar thing in India, like about 500. I mean, we deployed a lot, but some of them are unfortunately offline now. So we have about 500 stations in India. And those are places that couldn't afford to buy our device, even though our device is very affordable. Like we sell retail at $400, and usually we have discounts like Black Friday and stuff, so people can get it even cheaper. But yeah, but for those places, those stations were super expensive, and we came up with new ideas and ways to subsidize the cost and give the hardware for free. And that's the only way that those countries can have weather infrastructure that they can use to improve their local economies, essentially.
And I think this is something that has an impact on lives of, if you stuck to India, millions of people, right? It's like a small project that can have such a big influence, because if you don't have information about the weather, there's so many things that can go wrong. Let's talk a little bit about this rollout for the South, right? Like, what was your idea? Because, okay, we can't just give away for free because we don't have the capital to just, for the OPEX of the whole thing. And then what did you come to decide, okay, maybe you can get the community to build, to invest capital in order to work with deployers? Like, what was the idea behind? What did you guys build, and how's that going?
So we call that targeted rollouts. And the idea actually goes like to the birth of the company, because we thought it's kind of obvious. It should be that way. So when when in the crypto world, we are trying to tokenize whatever we can. And essentially tokenizing weather stations is an obvious kind of concept in our project. But that's not how we started. Like, we started by, in a way, giving tokens for the work, for the labor that the operators are putting. We're not initially we didn't tokenize the stations themselves. And the trigger point for us was early on into the project, when we realized that a lot of people buy our weather stations and don't deploy. They don't deploy them. So there was like a percentage, especially at the early days of the project, that like there was a lot of hype and momentum and excitement, and like people were aping into the weather stations and buying all the time. But then we saw that there was a substantial percentage, I think roughly like 30%, that they were like lagging in deployment, or they were just never getting deployed. And my assumption is that the early adopters into the project, they were wealthy Westerners who didn't mind buying a product that cost $400 before looking at the instructions and the details and the documentation that clearly said, like, dude, you have to put this at your roof, which means that you have to spend some time deploying it, like find a pole and mount it to something at your roof. In a way, that was good, because people like were helping the project even if they didn't deploy the station. I mean, they were killing at the time we didn't have a lot of stock, so they were like putting the project out of stock all the time. But the trigger point there was like, we need to decouple the operation from the ownership of the station, because we had people that were begging us to give them stations. We had startups and small teams that were begging for hardware, essentially. And we either didn't have in stock or they couldn't afford to buy it, and we had to give it for free. And at the same time, we had people who wanted to support the project. They were paying for the hardware, but they were not deploying. So that led to the Swisswork project that we did last year in August, where basically we advertise to our community and to the community of Swissborg, which is an exchange. We advertise that we have those NFTs that represent the station. And when you buy one of those NFTs, you're essentially helping hardware being to be manufactured, and we will ship that hardware to individuals in countries that we think cannot afford those stations in the first place, but it's beneficial for them to have weather infrastructure there. And the rewards generated by the stations will go, the majority of the rewards will go back to the people who help fund the station. We structured it in a way. We structured it from a legal perspective. We structured it as renting the equipment to get services back, and also we give the ability to all those individuals to get weather forecast essentially from their neighborhood instead of the actual location that the station is deployed. That was very successful. It was quite wild, to be honest. Like, I think as an idea, it wasn't so extreme in the sense that those kind of ideas always circulated in the DePIN space, but I'm not aware of any execution of that size from any other projects. Because we managed to raise $600,000 and we converted that in 2,200 weather stations, which we just gave for free. We had to cherry pick deployers. That was a big risk. Lots of lessons learned there because it's not so obvious who the best deployer is. Like, how can you trust somebody with 100 or 1,000 weather stations in advance, like just doing an interview? So we took a lot of risks there, and in a way, we kind of lost a lot of capital too. But we managed to bootstrap the network in those countries. And we are repeating that today with the Beaver's NFT campaign that you guys are helping us to promote as well. But there's a twist there in what we do today. We took over the entire process. So there's no centralized exchange. There's no platform there to market this. Other than having the support of partners like you that just spreading the word. All the contracts are in, like the smart contracts, the distribution of the tokens, the NFTs, everything happens in our own website, on our own decentralized application. And in a way, that's good and bad. Like, it's good in terms of we have full control of this and we can evolve and expand this in any way we want. Because the things that we're doing don't exist. We couldn't make them happen in a centralized exchange. We couldn't make them happen in NFT marketplaces. We tried. We've pitched our ideas to all the NFT marketplaces that exist, basically. And all of them are like, were initially happy to work with us, but then there were like obstacles in when we wanted to do things that they couldn't support. So in the end, we decided to do a very small scale experiment just to get our infrastructure rolling in order to do bigger things later on, like more iterations later on, with the help of bigger partners, possibly layer one projects that see the benefit in creating a DePIN ecosystem boost, or as I often say, like a DePIN platform or a DePIN launchpad. And this is basically the direction that we want to move, that we're moving anyway. And there's a lot of things that will be announced in the future regarding this direction.
That's super, super interesting. How would you say, what are the main benefits for the community to be involved with the NFT, deploying the NFT? Just to give an example, my fiance this year, at some point, I think it was beginning of the year, I don't remember exactly, Pigeon Penguins had their own airdrop campaign, and she got some free tokens. Like, whoa. I remember I told her, and she felt so bad about the airdrop that she donated all that money. And I was like, okay, I mean, if you really want to donate, maybe now it's a good time to actually even buy a bunch of like WeatherXM NFTs, because you know the team, you know that they're doing right things, and then you can actually see the progress, right? And this would be even better because you'll be donating and still having some upside on that, right? Like, doesn't necessarily need to be insane, but it would be really cool and it should feel good. I think. What did you say? Like, why would people get the NFT? They're excited. What are the benefits? Or why should they do it?
The way that we have structured this, as everything in the company, basically, with our tokenomics and so on, we're not pretending that somebody will get rich because they will participate in our project. On the contrary, we're very open that this is not the goal. What we see here is basically, if somebody wants to support our project and our mission and wants to see more weather stations being deployed around the world or in their area, and also they want to benefit from the existing weather stations that they could potentially have in their area, by participating in this NFT sale, essentially they buy access to our weather services. So it's like we're selling basically the professional services through this NFT, and their money will go into good use in the sense that we will convert this capital into hardware. We're going to ship this hardware to places that we think will benefit the project and the local communities. Of course, this is like demand first from our angle. We want to deploy stations where customers have asked us to deploy stations. So we're not just distributing random numbers of devices to random people. So that's beneficial for the project overall, in any way one sees it. And again, the rewards a portion of the rewards go back to the NFT holders. And with those rewards, they participate in the governance of the project, because we use Snapshot to decide on important things with WeatherXM improvement proposals in the DAO, and more things are. So that's basically, the typical question, like, what's the utility of the token? The answer is, with our token, you participate in the government, obviously, but you also unlock access to weather services. And you can also use those tokens to just buy a weather station, because we sell our weather stations on our eShop with WXM tokens as well. And there's always a discount if somebody buys with tokens. So that's an alternative an alternative approach to help the project and buy a weather station as well.
So I think anyone that's interested in anything related to weather stations should definitely buy, the device itself, deploy it. If you don't have how to deploy one, get an NFT, get involved, because it's a really cool project. I like that. I really hope this NFT program does very well, because, like you said, it's just the first step, right? You're trying to prove a model. If this model works, which I think is working, then you can scale, and then the future can be, so many more weather stations and people in places that people really need. Because I also feel that the places that has the worst infrastructure is the place that they need the most, right? This kind of data. So you guys are doing like a service for the whole communities, for the whole world that it's required. And it's really nice to have a company like you actually focus on those problems and try to find solutions, and in a way that even if they don't have the capital to invest, there's value on that data, that hardware, that work, basically. Really always hustling, always finding a way to make it work, to find a solution. And that's something that definitely, hats off to you guys on that.
And he removes the hat. And just to comment on this a little bit, like, it sounds a little bit like a cliche that, we're trying to make the world a better place, that every startup claims. But if somebody actually goes to our social media or to the blog posts that we have, you will see the local teams, people from all around the world, taking photographs of the deployments and explaining their use cases and how they use our weather data. Yeah, so this is happening for real. Like, this is not a fake marketing BS that we are like throwing here and there. And actually, we're not doing a very good job advertising this enough. Like, we have a lot of partners and deployers that we it just happened that we've never talked about. They don't exist in our social media. Because one of the good things and the curses at the same time of the team is that most of the team are engineers. We're all technical. I am a computer engineer. All the co-founders are computer engineers. So we are not so strong on spreading the message, basically the word on how good WeatherXM as a project is and what kind of impact it has. And at the same time, like how many people are like thanking us for giving them free weather information in places that they had no clue what was going on.
And I feel that I share the same issue. I'm an engineer myself. Even though I've been forcing myself to learn to become a little bit more, helpful on the marketing side, on the sales side, because I see so many good projects that build so many amazing tech that they like to build great products, but they don't think about selling. They don't really pay too much attention. And that's actually a big issue with a lot of crypto projects. Like I'd say the good ones, the best projects, in technically speaking, they're the one usually with the least amount of resources on the marketing side. And the best marketing projects are the one that are actually the worst projects. A lot of time, the scammy projects. So in a way, if the project seems too good to be true, it probably is in Web3. So pay attention to the projects that, you can talk to the founder, you can understand what they're doing. Because, just go to WeatherXM Explorer, travel around the world, see the data, see the website, the quality of the product. That's something that it's better than everything else in the market, or almost better than everything else that's in this weather market. You guys have been building a lot, right? A lot of things, for a long time. So hopefully this podcast can spark some excitement and some curiosity on a lot of people out there. Make sure to check WeatherXM. Talk to your family, talk to your friends about what they're trying to build. Forget about Web3, forget about tokens. Just think about the things that you guys are building and how that can actually help, all around the world, people in need, communities, etc. So yeah, task for everyone who's listening or watching, talk to at least 3 people about WeatherXM. That's my task for you. And yeah, what else would you like to the community? We need to wrap up before we're getting the time. What can people learn more about the project, get NFTs, or less message?
I mean, there's something that we're very excited that hasn't reached, that we haven't communicated yet, detailed enough, and it will follow in the next few months. But we're spinning out a new company. We'll do parametric weather insurance on chain for real, because there's a lot of discussions about this in the crypto world, many years now. If you hear Oracle protocols like Chainlink, usually you often hear the cliche example of parametric weather insurance. That's why we need crypto, and that's why we need oracles, because one day there will be a parametric weather insurance on chain. And it's for people who've been in the IoT space. For me, this is the equivalent of the smart fridge. We need connected devices because one day your fridge will know what's missing from inside and it will automatically order from the supermarket. And we still haven't seen those smart fridges. In practice, they exist as product, but nobody's using them. And in a way, parametric weather insurance is similar in the sense that insurance companies don't need what we're talking about. They're happy to continue doing everything on paper. But as the market matures, it becomes easier to create this service. And I think we reached the point of maturity today in WeatherXM specifically that we can create weather protection services on crypto rails that are dramatically cheaper than the traditional ones. And that's the angle, I think, here that makes it more interesting, because we make them cheaper because we risk less, because we understand the weather more in areas that nobody understands the weather because infrastructure is missing. So this is our next endeavor. We have customers in those use cases, and we're going to launch together the product, and with the everything will happen in once. When we do the announcements, the services are probably going to be in operation. So we have some partner customers where they will offer the weather protection service to their to their end users, to the end customers immediately. And the first one is a travel website that they sell travel packages. So there will be a weather protection option with the travel package, and the other two are agricultural crop related. And we're spinning out the company in a way that will have MGA capacity, so we will have a license to touch real insurance products. So it's not a degen scammy kind of insurance fake thing. Is the real deal. Like one of the characteristics that WeatherXM has is that we have spent a ton of money on lawyers trying to build the structure as legit as possible. So if we figure out a way to become sustainable and to grow, we are not blocked by legal obstacles, basically. So that's why the legal structure is based in Switzerland, in Zug, and not in some weird islands. And we're trying to do weather protection and insurance stuff by the book. So that's something that I'm excited that we're going to see in the next quarter. In terms of where you can find more, weatherxm.com, WeatherXM in Twitter, blog.weatherxm.com has a lot of inside information, and our mobile apps are available in the marketplaces. So if you search WeatherXM in Android or iOS or Solana, Seeker, you'll find our apps, and you can use either the insights of a station nearby or a generic weather forecast that is as much as possible improved by the stations in the area. So today we offer forecast for every place on Earth, even if we don't have a station. So we're trying to do like the best possible forecast at any location. Yeah, and of course our Discord, which a lot of active discussions are taking place, like interactive dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, if also for all those links, you can go to deepinhub.io/project/WeatherXM. You have all the links for Discord, Twitter, and everything that Manos mentioned. If you like weather, if you're like this kind of weather nerds, make sure to join the Discord and join the conversation with them. Manos, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's always a pleasure talking to you all around the world. I think we met last time in Singapore. Maybe we're going to meet in Dubai. You never know. Like, I'm sure I'm going to see you sooner or later. Everyone listening, pay attention to WeatherXM, what they're doing. Check their website, check the NFTs. And remember, talk about them to 3 people because it's important. And yeah, let's continue building. Thanks so much.
Thank you.